Hi everyone, this is Counseling 4000, Chapter 20, Developing a Service Plan at the Case Management Unit. So things that we're talking about are service plans, treatment plans, goal plans, and care plans. So depending on where your agency is or what your agency specializes in, it might be one or more of these things. A service plan is broad, general goals for the case management unit to follow with regards to a specific person. Case managers will refer people to the agency where the actual services will be provided, such as a provider agency, or that's what it's also known as. The case manager will develop an outline for the provider agency to follow, and the provider agency will take the broad general goals and turn them into a very specific and measurable goal with objectives for that person. So for example, that would be, let's say that your client is coming in and one of the goals that they want to do is stop smoking. So they might go to a addiction specialist and then that person will go, oh, okay, so I noticed that one of your goals is that you want to stop smoking. So let's evaluate what you are doing now. Let's say you're smoking 3 packs a day. We're going to try and bring it down to 2 packs a day for the next couple of weeks to see how that works. And then it'll be a little bit more specific, maybe some mindfulness techniques or whatever, so that the provider agency, which is the addictions place, will actually be the one with the specific goals, whereas in the general one, it would be, as a case manager, would be the service plan itself. This chapter is the step-by-step process for developing a general service plan before referral to a provider agency. So you as a general person right now are going to develop all the different ones that you're going to then give to the provider agency to complete. Determining the person's need is really important. The treatment goals, here are some samples, would be like something to deal with mental illness, emotional problems, or drug or alcohol abuse. Some will not have the above, instead general living goals such as poverty, home arrangement, and other material needs. Again, so depending on who the person is and what they're coming in for, it could be one of these as well. You could also be providing, which is an appropriate in-home care, better transportation, more appropriate living arrangements. In inpatient facilities, care plans may include recreation, nutrition, and physical therapy as well. So if the person's actually living in a specific place, they might talk about, learning how to find hobbies that are healthy behaviors as opposed to doing bad stuff like, drinking and stuff like that. Nutrition is learning how to eat a healthier diet. And then, of course, physical therapy. Let's say that if there's a physical injury, how to bounce back and learn how to walk, let's say, if they were in an accident and they aren't walking at the moment. Involving the client and the family, 10 to 20 years ago, the case manager would prioritize the person's problems for them. Today, less mental state hospitals around, so people are part of the community again. So again, before what we have now, there were a lot of institutions, and those institutions would do everything. However, with the disability rights that happened in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, institutions were slowly becoming less popular. Okay, there's still some that exist for some severe cases, but generally people who have disabilities can actually live within the community in your neighborhoods and stuff like that. So that means that there are going to be some challenges when it comes to that. Okay, families were unable to cope with the mental illness without support, so they might abandon them. Today, with the permission of the client, the case manager will interact with the client and the family. Agencies have found that people do much better if the families have not cut them off completely. So one of the things that you might be doing is communicating with the family to let them know that this person here, although maybe, let's say, if they were doing it themselves, the family were doing it themselves, it would be exhausting because, there's work to do that they have to do to survive, then also take care of someone who might not necessarily have the easiest, let's say, living situation. So by letting them know, hey, you know what, we have found people who are going to help this family member. Can you please still show support, moral support, and social supports and stuff like that? That would be fantastic because family members are people that that client will probably know very well and can connect to and feel safe with sometimes. Using the assessment, you will receive an evaluation or assessment for each person in your caseload. Social history or assessment form, you might have done this as a case manager. So again, these are some of the forms that you have been introduced to in the last couple of weeks when it comes to the different forms for a case manager. The evaluation tells you what the person's major problems are and what the areas the person's life needs attention. So all this documentation that you've been doing, when we look at it, we know exactly what the presenting problem is and also what are some areas that they need to work on. Goals to consider for clients. And I know this is a huge list, but I just wanted to show you some of the things that you actually might be working with. To obtain or maintain housing, to make positive changes regarding relationships with the family members, to obtain or maintain mental health treatment or rehab services, to obtain or maintain physical health treatments or rehabilitation services, to recognize participants in hospitalization and take appropriate action, to obtain or maintain social supports, to obtain or maintain recreational and leisure time activities, to obtain or maintain employment, to obtain a new role in life, to continue living independently, to obtain or maintain food and clothing, to acquire or to improve daily living skills, to obtain or maintain drug and alcohol treatment or rehab services, to make positive changes regarding stressors and coping mechanisms, to obtain legal assistance on legal issues, to obtain or maintain transportation, to obtain or maintain an education program, to obtain assistance with financial issues, and to develop realistic goals for the future. So again, these are just some of the few things that people will come in. These are probably the most popular, most generalized. So please be familiar with these things as you start working in that place, and then familiarize yourself with the resources or those provider agencies that you will most likely refer to your clients if you're working as a case manager. Make it a little bit more specific if possible. So a too general statement would be to make positive changes regarding stressors and coping mechanisms. To be more specific, job with better work hours, but really specific would be resolution to current marital problems. Okay, so you can see how one is a lot more general. You can still kind of ask questions about exactly what does that mean or whatever, or how many hours are you talking about when it comes to this job. But the more specific one is resolution of current marital problems. So we know exactly what that means. That means that this person is having problems with their partner and we want to resolve those problems, right? Look at the sample treatment or goal plan on page 370 and 371 if you need to see a sample. Creating the treatment or service plan and putting together the provisional plan, write out the goals so you have a clear understanding of what you and the person see as important in this case. So if you have taken a class of, I believe it's called behavior modification, I can't remember what the number is, what you do for your major assignment is you're going to change one thing about your life. I think a common one is, to exercise more or to lose weight, right? And so you would have to do all these different small steps to reach that goal. So that's what we're talking about where we're talking about this specific chapter. Okay. Number one, place the individual's name and the next of kin on the top line of the form. 2, check in the box for an initial plan as you have never done a plan before on this person. 3, fill in the date that the plan was created. Make the review date 3 months from this date unless if your judgment a review should take place sooner. And then 4, for example, if the person is in need of inpatient drug and alcohol services, and those services are expected to last only 10 days, check on the service sooner. So obviously, we have a general date, but if there's a specific program that you're going to have your client participate in, and it's only 10 days or 14 days or whatever it is, then you would need to then, of course, mention that in your paperwork as well. 5, indicate who helped to formulate this plan. Was it the client, the daughter, the mother, the father? So we know who's involved. 6, wait until you are in the planning meeting to decide the level of case management and determine what that with the other people as well. So again, you have to meet with the person and then talk it all out then. 7, print your name as a case manager. 8, the box containing the materials on the DSM-5 should be left for the completion in the planning meeting. Wait until you have heard from others on the team before you decide what to put right there. And 9, sign and date the form at the bottom, placing your name on the line for the case manager. Okay? To fill in the boxes for each category on the left, circle or highlight strengths. If it is an area of strength for the client brings resources to this area. You can make notations or comment by the way of explanation in the comment boxes, such as receive income from Social Security or works as a librarian. Then you know that that person's employed, exactly what they do, so they have an income that's coming in. We don't have to worry about their money situation and stuff like that. Or if it's receive income from Social Security, then we know, again, they have money that the government is giving them, so that we don't have to necessarily focus on that area, but maybe other things. Circle or highlight need if there is a problem in this area that you intend to address. You can make a notation by way of explanation in that comment box. Do not circle either strength or need if that area in the box is not applicable to the client's problem. Place relevant comments and explanations in the comment box. Write the goal in the boxes underneath the heading goals. Use goals list in the previous slide. In the box in the last column, indicate the name of the agency to which you will refer the person to meet the goals. So let's say that you are going to send them to Clinic Joe, right? So then you would write down the provider agency is Clinic Joe. Okay. Try to get as much service from one agency as possible, because you don't want to send this person to like 15 different ones if they can get it all done within 3 agencies instead. How to identify the client's strengths. Look for supports in the community for people and their families. That's one of the most important ways. What are the religious or cultural belief, practices, or values observed by this person? And how does she use these to support and comfort? Okay. When your client interacts with others, such as staff, family, and pets, what interpersonal skills does he appear to have? So we want to know what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are so we can work on those with them. What special abilities or skills does this person possess? What is the level of education, and what do they have any special credentials? If you gave the person a choice as to what they would prefer to do, what would they be most likely to choose? So if you gave them a bunch of options about, let's say, hobbies or recreation, what are they going to choose, and note those things. If the person has contact with his or her family, what does the family do together? So when they spend time together, what do they actually do together that is quality time? What hobbies, recreational activities, and talents does this person pursue? What activities, people, or group give comfort to your client? Does your client have a pet? With whom is the person most likely to want to spend time? Who outside the person's family has shown interest in this person? So we want to see if there's outside support systems for your specific client as well. And understanding the barriers. So it might be a language barrier with the family members or within the community, and that's something that you need to pay attention to. Culture. Judging one's culture through the predominant culture is something that might be problematic. So you have to understand that, just because you see the world in this westernized way does not mean that your client, although living in America, might still observe things in a different cultural background. Okay. Disability. Does not realize your client may not be able to do everything on the plan. If you have a wheelchair, you're not being able to do certain things because of that wheelchair. So that's something you also want to pay attention to when it comes to their disability. Does that limit them from achieving some of the goals that they want? Lack of resources due to lack of transportation may be challenging, or no interview close so that they can get a job. So again, if they are lacking resources, you need to address those things as well. You cannot send someone around town to 13 different sites if they don't have a place and a method to get there. So then you would have to work on, let's say, maybe a bus pass or calling some sort of program like an access or something like that will be able to take them wherever they need to go, or get them a voucher for a Lyft or Uber ride and stuff like that. Mental illness, cannot communicate effectively. Case manager may misunderstand. So that's always something that you need to pay attention to, is when a person has a disability, and especially if it is a cognitive disability, they might not necessarily say the things that are realistic because they're not able to differentiate between that. So that's something that you, as the experienced person, should take note and then work with them in a thoughtful and kind and caring manner. An intellectual disability, cannot communicate effectively. Case managers treat them like children, and that's not something that's very good because they are adults. You might need to speak to them in more lower level languages, like vocabulary words of a first or second grader, but you shouldn't treat that person as a little person or anything like that just because they have an intellectual disability. But you do still want to treat them with respect and everything, because they are your client.